Hi, everyone. Welcome to Pendulum Friday here at Soulprint. Thank you very, very much for being here. For those of you who have recently subscribed, welcome. To, of course, my established subscribers, I adore you. And I thank all of you for your kind words, your support, the thumbs up. All of it is really lovely. It humbles me, and I very much appreciate it. So it's another Friday. My goodness. So this week it has been particularly like nuts. Just energetically, there's like, I don't know, like crazy going on. Stuff's coming out of 45's mouth that's insane. The Pentagon's trying to like prove every single thing a reporter says about them. Um, Canada is negotiating all kinds of trade agreements. The United States is not part of them. There's just a lot going on. So I'm not going to go on and on here. Let's just get to your questions because, again, some of them are really good. You guys are honestly amazing questions you ask. All right. So for those of you who may be new to my channel, well, first of all, welcome. Secondly, this is a pendulum I work with. It responds very, very quickly. Sorry about that. That was one of those moments, where you see the dog walk by and there's something in his mouth he like could not have. Yeah. Oh. So this is like my life, okay, people? Like, here we go. So when the pendulum goes side to side, it means that it's ready to talk, it's ready to communicate, and I have been protected. I am under protective shield. Pendulum show me yes, back and forth is yes, and show me no. And round is no. You will notice a slight vibration in my hand. The pendulum is actually moving fairly quickly, and that momentum of energy is what causes that movement. Trust me, it is not me. It serves me no purpose to just sort of come up with answers. Okay, so here we go. Let's get cracking here. Is the next way this one's spiritual, and the very last question is really interesting about angels. Okay, so but let's get started. Is the next wave of energy both spiritual and medical healing, sound healing? Um, so okay, let's just touch base on that briefly. There have been a lot of civilizations on the planet, far more than we can realize or even appreciate. And many of them used a variety of almost like healing temples. And they were remarkable. I mean, some of them were positioned in such a way so that the sun or the moon would, shine through or work through like prisms of colored glass. There are healings that go on with sounds and tones. There are healings that take place with colors, right? So there's all kinds of different disciplines that um, encompass spiritual energy healing. There became even Reiki to some degree is like a good Reiki master by and large is combining the Reiki energy with healing energy and intuition. Um, so that's part of the reason, just by the way, when you start to realize how powerful energy is, that's when all of a sudden doing energy work or light work, you start to see the importance and the significance of what it can actually accomplish, because not everything has to be sort of hands on. And I'm not handing out medical advice here. I'm simply reminding you all that there's all kinds of varieties of healing modalities out there. Let's get started. Did Barron Trump do crypto insider trading? I don't know. Let's find out, shall we? Pendulum says yes. And will he receive the money? Okay, right now it's a little no. I forgot to mention, but if you see the pendulum just going dead still and it just doesn't do anything, it just sort of does that. It means that either the energy the energy can't be read. It's either maybe too early to ask the question, or the energies haven't moved into place to make the question clear or the answer clear. And sometimes we get it just because honestly, it's like not our business, right? And it just won't answer. And so that's how it is. Trump declared peace in the Middle East and expected his Nobel Prize. Israel and Hamas have already violated the truce. Was the peace plan more about making some deals? That's a yes, I'm sorry to say. Um, was allowing Qatar to have a Air Force training base in Ohio part of the deal making? We have a yes. Does the space have anything to do with Qatar giving Trump the $400 million luxury jet? I'm literally hearing the words tit for tat. Okay. House Judiciary Committee Chair Jim Jordan wants Jack Smith to testify before his committee. Okay. The testimony would be over the FBI having the phone records of Republican lawmakers as a part of the inquiry into the 2020 election, culminating in the January 6th attacks on Capitol Hill. Okay. Mhm. Will Jack Smith testify? It's not been decided. That pendulum has gone still. Jamie Raskin made a scathing statement about Jordan's request to Smith. Did Jordan feel put in his place by the statement? I don't know what the statement was. I got to look it up. Which ended with a call for all of the cover up of the Epstein files and the Tom Homan $50,000 bribe. I have no idea what that is. Okay, so was Jim Jordan at all chastised by the remarks coming from Jamie Raskin? No, no. Jim Jordan, in my opinion, has long since relinquished his moral compass for status and power. Will the Epstein file information come out before Jack Smith's January 6th phone records? That looks like a yes. Now, of course, the question is all of it going to come out? That we don't know. God, Stephen Miller on a news interview claimed Trump has plenary power to do whatever he wishes. Basically, that means like he can do whatever he wants. Um, and then he went stone silent for like 20 or 30 seconds before continuing his rant, sidestepping his plenary remark. Will his remark cause problems for himself and or Trump in the future. Okay, it's a yes, but as you can see, it's not a really enthusiastic yes. So I'm inclined to feel energetically that it's not, first of all, for MAGA people, they think he should have those powers anyways, right? So they're not going to cause a problem. Um, and because the media is the way the media is, I would venture to say probably that 7 out of every 10 people in the United States and 7 out of every 10 people who follow basic news from the United States and other parts of the world didn't hear about it. And so until this kind of insanity becomes so incredibly intense and insane, and people start actually really, really paying attention, um, there are going to be a lot of ramifications. Speaking of which, now I know and appreciate that a lot of you people um, tune in for Pendulum Friday, and I thank you very much for that. The views on the other videos I put out don't tend to be as high. That's okay. Everybody's got lots of things to look at. But I do encourage you to take a look at the video that I released on Wednesday called Trajectory of the United States Channel. There's some really, really interesting information there. And the bottom line is that this is about the people. And this is about people deciding whether they are going to ascend as a country to a higher vibration or not. And the thing is that it's not, when we talk about ascending to the fourth dimension or the fifth dimension, um, or being a light worker, working with the light, with energy, etc., that is sort of like individual, okay? But what's going on right now really is like a pivot point in the United States, and a decision has to be made by the people about what they will and will not tolerate and what direction they want their country to go in. It really is a fight for the soul of the country. It is not political as much as now it has become, dare I say, spiritual. And so, for those of you who are interested, the channeled message on Wednesday was really interesting pertaining to that. Let me get on. Is the F-45 administration afraid of no kings on Saturday? That looks like it's going to be quite the turnout. Are they concerned about that? Yes. Yes. The next question is, will people that come out to protest on No King's Day be arrested? I'm just going to caveat that. Will people who come out to peacefully protest on No King's Day be arrested? No. Is 45 or the administration going to attempt to or succeed, my question, in creating distractions so that that news cycle isn't all about the protests? Are they going to try to do things that create like a split screen? Yeah, of course they are. When 45 orders our military into our cities to murder Americans, will they obey? No. But you know what? It is the ones that are running around in camouflage and face masks that are the bigger concern. Now, I do know that there was a court ruling that came out that said all of them need to wear identifying um, labels that identifies where what branch they're working with, or they with ICE, or they with the FBI, like who are they with? It'd be interesting to see if that actually ends up happening. But I think that, you know, when I watch the, little snippets of the way the ICE slash whoever those other guys are, people are handling civilians who aren't doing anything. They really, it's almost as if they found every single person who has no respect or regard for human life, who has violent tendencies, and has no impulse control. And they shove them all in camouflage and say, get out there. They're like out of control. And I think part of it probably is like sort of a crowd mentality, right? If all your buddies at work are doing the same thing, well, you're going to do it too. But it is absolutely obscene what is going on out there. And again, um, there's going to need to be some real effective resistance to that. But does Donald Trump and JD Vance think they own America? Do they think they own it? Okay, no. I prefer this world. Do they think that they can completely control it? Yeah, they do. And do they believe that it should conform to their vision of a um, Christian nationalist white society? Mhm. Do they think that Americans must submit to them? Right now they do. Their egos are so inflated. They're so, and listen, it's not only them, right? It's the Peter Thiels of the world. It's all of them who, um, this is the thing, right? The writing is on the wall. Um, you would have to be truly blind, deaf, and dumb to not see that this is moving towards a crisis point. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, and the energy I receive continues to confirm this. Those who are greedy and empowered, they are cramming, shoving everything through as fast as they can. And that includes, unfortunately, the Supreme Court, um, because they know at some point this is going to end, it's going to stop. And they're not going to be able to basically keep on shoving their agenda down the throats of the American people. And so they're trying to get as much stuff done as they can. And that's what you have going on right now. Is JD Vance an imposter? Um, okay, well, no. But does JD Vance actually have a personal philosophy that has made him believe that he is somehow special? There you have it. Will someone intervene with 45 due to his decline, to the decline of his mental state? God, one hopes so, eh? But who's got balls enough to do it, right? At some point, is somebody going to intervene? It's a yes. Um, does 45 know or believe that his time as POTUS is ending soon? Does he believe that? No. See, this is the thing about him is he is now completely in a bubble. Okay. And so the interesting thing is, sorry, my screen froze there, but I carry on. He's in a bubble, all right? And so he doesn't take in, he doesn't absorb anything that does not conform to his belief, to his illusion. And in many ways, that's one of the things that America is struggling with. It is this, like, literally divide between what is truth and what is illusion. And unfortunately, for a great many people who have bought into the illusion, they believe it is truth. And so it's not just him, it's still those hardcore followers of his. Um, I don't know. Has a determination been made as to when 45 will be removed? Right now, it looks like a no. Let me just expand that. Is he likely to be removed from office either by impeachment or exile? That's a no. There aren't a lot of other options left if you get my drift. Will we have a true election without interference in 2026? Okay, it's a yes, but I got to tell you, it's not dancing in the streets, jumping up and down. Yes. Will the results be irrefutable and give us a blue wave in both houses? Okay. Is the 2026 midterm elections going to result in um, the Dems taking over the House and Senate at this point? Okay, that's a yes. The reason I reworded it is because the word irrefutable, again, only implies that you actually believe the truth. And if you don't, because you're living in this illusion, it doesn't matter what irrefutable anything you're presented with. Is it possible the entire clown show in DC will crumble into dust once the big chair occupant falls apart and we are free from that influence? Are the staunch supporters of 45 is is that going to start coming apart when he is no longer head of the parade? Okay, yes, but don't forget what I just said. Um, those in control are going to do everything and anything they can do, including destroy the Voting Act, to accomplish their ideals, their wish list. And the problem is you have too many mega type people, or at the very least, people who are going along, that there's just this is the thing, right? And I believe I've said this before too. Um, how long did the Republicans take to go after abortion? 50 years? They didn't let it go. They didn't get sidetracked. They just kept hammering and hammering and hammering. And they now have all the power to do what they want. And unfortunately, they have a powerhouse in the Supreme Court, because it truly is a mega majority. I mean, you can't even call it a conservative majority anymore. So, I don't mean to be sort of dark and depressing here, but I think that it's becoming more and more apparent with the crazy that is not going on, but is allowed to go on, with such little resistance or pushback, that it becomes really, really important that everybody sort of pay attention to what's going on, because a lot of the last many decades have happened and unfolded the way they did, and not only in the United States, but because people just felt that they should leave the government to do what the government does, and just sort of blindly trusting that it would have their needs and concerns front and foremost. And we've learned that that's not how it works. Corruption is front and foremost. Gaining money and power is front and foremost. Are Republicans planning to not have any more elections? Okay. Do they actually want to stop the elections? No. Or are they planning to have rigged ones where they decide who votes and how? Yeah, that's more in keeping with what they're looking at. Like Putin's playbook, okay? They have elections. It doesn't do them any good, but they have elections. And, there are stories about literally, people coming to the door and all but sticking a pencil in their hand and saying, "Mark here." Okay? Like, but that way they can prove on paper that he was elected. Arizona's Attorney General has sent a letter threatening legal action for failure to seat their newly elected representative. Honestly, I'm gonna so butcher this, and somebody actually did send me like pronunciation phonically. Grijalva, maybe. I apologize. Um, Now, part of what's going on is, of course, Mike Johnson has sent everybody home because he doesn't want to deal with the Epstein thing, and he apparently doesn't want to deal with the government shutdown either. Um, will will that end up needing to resort to actual legal action? It looks like it. Will Johnson swear in the new representative before the House comes back into session? Looks like no. The Republicans wanted the shutdown. It prevents them from dealing with the files, paying out money and salaries, extending subsidies for ACA, swearing in newly elected Dem in the Arizona House. Will it take some big event to cause the House to come back into session? I don't know what we qualify as big event, but let's just ask the question. Will there be a significant event that basically forces Mike Johnson to need to call back the House? Okay, that's a yes. So as of right now, it looks like there could be. Will the shutdown last for 2 more weeks? Unfortunately, as of right now, energetically, that's a yes. The Supreme Court is hearing oral arguments now about the Voting Rights Act. They will not make a decision until late in the session next year, which is before the midterms. Now, apparently, it was Amy Coney Barrett, Roberts, and Kavanaugh that were asking either questions or making statements that made it very, very clear that their intention was to destroy that voting act. They have no intentions of sort of salvaging it in any way, shape, or form. So that's a concern, right? Will SCOTUS overturn the Voting Rights Act? Right now, it's a little yes. But this is my question. Will that impact the midterm elections? Will they be able to implement everything fast enough for the midterm elections? That's a no. Thank God. Um, will Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, and Roberts vote against the act? Right now, that's a yes. Have to see how that shifts and changes. Is Liz Cheney planning to run for POTUS in 2028? Okay, what I'm hearing is she's still on the fence about it. Um, because there's still too much that needs to unfold. And the question is, who would she then be running against for president? And so that their camp, if you will, is waiting for things to play out a little bit more. Does Nancy Pelosi exert extreme pressure or control over Hakeem Jeffries such that he can't bring forth the ideas of the Democratic people? Is Hakeem Jeffries under Nancy Pelosi's thumb? Okay, yes. Has she basically so convinced him that the traditional way needs to remain in place? The traditional way of doing things. That's a yes, and that is unfortunate. Will the Democratic elites continue to control the desires of the people in order to reap their personal rewards? Okay, well, will the elite, regardless of party, um, continue to control the people to the best of their ability? Okay, yes. Will Hakeem Jeffries be installed as Speaker of the House when the Democrats have the majority. That's a non-answer, and I think what you're looking at is, um, there's going to be voting that goes on, and it feels very much like more and more Dems are looking for somebody who is very dynamic and forceful and can really whip up people's enthusiasm, and that is not Hakeem Jeffries. Will there be a stronger focus on Democratic membership of the Senate following the midterm elections? Yes. Will the next leader of the country be able to depend on the cooperation of all lawmakers and trust of allies to move in a reasonable and safe agenda forward? Okay, I'm getting a yes if the higher path is chosen. And this is a really interesting question about archangels, and so I'm just gonna do what I can to answer it. Okay, so are archangels real entities, or have they been made up by religion? They are real energy forms. Um, we tend to give them sex, right? Male, female, but for the most part, they're more androgynous, right? I mean, if you're in pure energy form, you don't have a gender, okay? Which is how come sometimes you'll hear, particularly like Ariel, being referred to in both genders, right? It sort of just depends on whoever's talking preference, I think. Um, and if they are real, okay, do each of them have a specific beauty? All right, now, so this is really interesting. There's like sort of 15, if you will, like major archangels. Um, and they do. They actually have sort of an area that they sort of specialize in, or an area that you can turn to them if that's something that's going on in your world. They also tend to have a color, right, that more closely resonates with them. And in fact, um, they also have crystals that tend to reflect and resonate with not only their energy, but with the color associated with them. Um, it is very interesting because you'll notice that for the most part, all of the archangels named end in El, right? Michael, Raphael, Raziel, Uriel, Hanel, Gabriel, right? And there are like meanings of their names, and they're connected to Ariel is the meaning of her name is the lioness of God. Azrael, whom God helps. Shamuel, he who sees God. Gabriel, messenger of God. Um, Michael, he who is like God. Raphael, he who heals. So they do. They have now functions. Now listen, this is the thing. Um, if you really, really need help with something and you're just calling out for whoever's listening, that works. Okay. It's not like if you go to Michael and ask for a healing when you probably want to be directing it to Raphael, that Michael's going to say, "Yeah, well, I can't help you. That's not that's not in my wheelhouse. It doesn't work that way." Okay. Is there a hierarchy within the angelic realm? And are there specific worker angels working for specific archangels? So this is really interesting. Particularly in the last I almost want to say 20 or 30 years, and to current. Um, there are a lot of healers that have come to the planet, right? There's been such a huge increase in Reiki masters, massage therapists. The list goes on and on. And very, very often, they are working under the umbrella of Raphael, who heals. So yeah, sometimes they actually are sort of part of a huge um, energy circle that a huge energy circle that sort of um, works. Okay, up together or on kind of specific things. The other thing that I just want to mention, really interesting, is that there are people who have seen angels. Now, originally, angels, for example, did not have wings, but for whatever reason, some artist way back started painting them with wings, and that became what people expected to see. And so the wings were sort of created so that we could see them. This is the thing, though, is there are huge, huge numbers of angels that are flying around. There's earth angels. Some of you may very well be earth angels that are here for specific purposes. Very often, our guardian angels in this life were somebody that we interacted with in a previous life, like at the same time, right? So we incarnated at the same time. Um, like it's so vast that you almost in some ways can't wrap your head around it. But for those who have actually seen angels, one of the things that they most commonly say, well, I can't believe how big it was, like huge. It's like I was aware of its size, but it was like through the floor and through the roof, but I knew um, you know, how big it was. What you're witnessing when you're seeing something of that magnitude is you literally are witnessing the energy and the power of particularly archangels. But I have had a visitation from somebody who was not an archangel, and again, huge. And so that's just an interesting kind of aside. Um, it, we have to try to remember that here on our planet, that energy is contained. And I've said before that I firmly believe that our aura is actually our soul, and so it is the soul that e- encompasses the body, not the body encompassing the soul. That's why right before people die, they very tend to like their aura dissipates, or it goes gray or black, right? But in any case, they are not so confined, and so yeah, they can be really, really, really large. And they have a loving and incredible and gentle energy. One of the things, though, it's really, really important to remember that we, of all the gifts we have been given, free will is our greatest gift, which means that an angel cannot intervene unless you are like truly in some sort of significant danger, like mortal danger, and that isn't part of the game plan, or they're asked. And so it's really important to remember that you have this massive support system, this energetic support system. And I swear to God, sometimes I think they're just hanging around going, all right, already. When are they just going to ask for help? So ask for help. And whether that is in your life, for somebody else, for your country, don't forget to ask. It works. All righty. Thank you for being here. This went on really, really long. I hope I managed to retain most of you, and you found it interesting, and questions were really interesting this week again. Joyce, thank you very, very much for putting it together. The weekend, what am I going to say? Do something nice for yourself and somebody else. Take good care, keep your energy high. And if you are in any way, shape, or form able, get out and do that No King's March wherever it is happening in your community. I think it is going to be amazing. And the energy is going to be like, wow. So until next time, take care and be well.